Si algo caracterizó a la reciente temporada de Grey's Anatomy fue la playa. Pude hablar con la directora de fotografía de esta temporada, la directora de fotografía principal llamada Alicia Robbins, que me contó cómo fue encarar estas secuencias, cómo fue pensarlas y también cómo fue guardar cada uno de los secretos y lograr que nos quedáramos con uno de los mejores momentos en un contexto un tanto particular como el del coronavirus en esta 17ª temporada de Grey's Anatomy.
We now return to Mira Akien and Contré with our latest interview.
Because it is a medical show, we do have on-set doctors and surgeons that are constantly advising how it's going to be shown on camera, how the actors are working with the tools at hand. So me knowing as much as they can give me is really good because then I know how to photograph it.
One slip.
That was actually a little tricky because one of the notes that we got before going into it was that they wanted the beaches, they wanted those scenes to look as real as possible. They didn't want it to feel like it was a dream necessarily. They wanted to feel like that could be really happening. And so even though we still wanted to give this magical quality to it, just the beauty of it, we had to make sure that it was still rooted in reality. Like you could see a beach like this. Like this isn't something that's so outside of a normal environment that it wouldn't be real. But one of the things that we try to play with a lot is just making sure that the lighting was just really beautiful all the time. Partly doing that is making sure that if we can, we try to keep our actors in backlight as much as possible because there is that sort of dreamy quality, no pun intended, dreamy, that dreamy quality of having someone glowing from a backlight. So there were some times that we had to film one direction when the sun was on one side of the beach and then wait and film the rest of the scene looking the other way when the sun was then on the other side. Yeah. And that already is not very natural that the sun is now on both sides of the beach, but as long as they're in backlight, it looked beautiful. Yeah. We couldn't do that all the time, but that was one thing that we generally tried to do. And then we would try to take advantage also of some of the beautiful magic hour moments that we'd get. We had to try to do all of our beach scenes all together as much as possible. So we weren't at the beach for every single episode. We try to combine scenes at the beach over a few days. And we also were dealing with tides. The tides would come in and we wouldn't have a beach at all. So we were literally sitting there watching the water and waiting for the water to recede. I mean, at least I was watching the water. Half of our crew would be out there surfing though while we were waiting. I didn't have a hard time keeping that secret because I didn't know either. I did not know either. What they did is they gave rough scripts for people to read. So we had an idea of what it is that we'd be shooting. But I also didn't know until we got there who it was going to be. So that was pretty exciting for myself too, because I have been a Grey's Anatomy fan for many years. And because I didn't get to work with him before he died in the season, but because I never got to work with him, I was actually really excited about it. Of course, then it just made me a little bit nervous because I was thinking, oh my gosh, now I've got to make him look so good, which isn't hard, by the way. As soon as he walked up, you're like, oh my gosh, he looks exactly the same. So this is not going to be terribly complicated, but just we wanted to make sure that in her limbo, he's the best looking self that he can be. So we just had to make sure of that. And hence the reason for standing down during the really harsh hours as well, is to make sure that both of them just looked really beautiful and spectacular for those scenes. And it was just really fun watching them act together again too, because I know that it had been years since they actually performed together. And it just seemed like they kind of, I had never seen them on set before, but it just felt like old friends getting back together, and they were laughing a lot and joking with each other. And it was just really precious, actually. Those 2 days were really fun.
Well, what is that? What is that face? Would you start a surgery with a face like that?
No.
No.
One of those scenes was written like while we were there.
Oh, no, I
Because
didn't. Wow.
yeah, because a lot of the scenes were roughed in anyway, and we were doing so well on time while we were there, they were able to write another scene on the fly, which was great, and it's actually one of my favorite scenes from the season. It's one of the scenes with them on the pier, and that was written on the fly because we had time to shoot some extra work, and it was just a gorgeous scene. And that's also a testament to just how great our writers are, and particularly Krista, who was able to see the benefit of, okay, let's get this in the can as well. I think this is a good idea to have.
But she just
Hates it.
hates it. She feels robbed.
Well, she gets that from my mother.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how it would be able to happen again, because how do you bring him back any other way besides a dream sequence or limbo? So I think that it was recognized by everyone that this was something that may not happen again on this show. And so let's take advantage of this. And I think, and everyone was on board with shooting additional content that we needed.
Oh, okay. You're saying that the pandemic...
No, it just feels very shallow to talk about my favorite things when there's people dying in record numbers.
I shot all of the Mark and Ellen scenes on the beach, and we had a very close double stand-in who performed the Lexi parts at the beach for us, knowing that then it was going to get replaced in Canada. I think it was Vancouver. There was no way to do the quarantine time that she would have needed to travel here and then to get back for the show that she's on. So that the only reason why we had to do it that way was because we were in the middle of COVID.
Excuse me.
You're saying that you're not allowed to enjoy your life because people are dying in record numbers. That makes exactly zero sense.
It was tricky just because it's really hard to match those two things.
Yeah.
A real beach, but then putting someone on green screen and dropping them into that beach is really tough. I mean, to get the lighting right. And it's actually more about our DP that had to shoot the Canada unit. That's the toughest part, though, is trying to match what we have at a practical day exterior and now replicating that on a soundstage. But luckily, because we did shoot a lot of the content with this double, the lighting reference was there, so he was at least able to match as closely as he could on the stage. And then with just the magic of our VFX company, Barnstorm, they just did a really great job at making it feel as natural as possible.
But I always cover him with a blanket.
So nice of you, Sosa.
Mommy!